like
Yeah, so maybe there are numbers or digits in there that only
looking at it
an
cannot.
admin, a social security admin officer can actually just look at it and tell that this guy is a student. Yeah. Anyway, that's very possible.
That's what
As you said, it might be an improvement in the process whereby they make it a lot seamless.
F1 visa, like I said earlier, allows you to work on campus. Now there is what they call the F2 visa as well. The F2 is the dependent visa. So for someone coming to the country as a student, you get an F1 visa, and then a spouse or someone or children or another dependent or someone that's claiming to be dependent on the F1 visa holder, will come with what they call an F2 visa. So with iPosta.com, you can get an address in any city. I can get an address in Spain. I can get an address in Colombia, like an address where all my mail will be going to, and then I will know where it is. So I knew where the place is. It's more like an office. I went there in DC, so they have, it's like a private organization or private school.
Oh, I see.
And so they can get mail for you.
Yes. Business.
So F1 visa does not allow you to do anything else outside the campus. If you are earning anything that will require you or that will make you to be earning money outside the campus, outside your school, you will, if you are, partaking in that or getting into that, you will be violating your visa provision.
To tell them now, okay, what changed? You told us that you were coming here to be with your spouse. You told us that you are coming here to see Disney. Now you want to go to school, or now so you have to give it takes a lot of documentations. You have to get a valid admission already from an approved school. You have to get service number, like the whole things you need to get as an F1. You have to get all those things already.
Good afternoon, everyone. You are welcome to our special episode of the McBlenny podcast. We hope you've been enjoying our previous series. We're looking forward to a bumper package for today. Last week, we started the series, which is part one of looking at how you can adjust your status after your F1. Basically, we focused on the F1 student pathway. And we talked about the multiple pathways. We talked about the OPT, optional practical training. We talked about the CPT, curricular practical training. We also talked about H1B adjustments, could be STEM or non-STEM. We also looked at CAP exempt and non-CAP exempt H1B. We also looked at the EB visa series from EB1 up to EB5. And we also looked at the O visa, as well as all the different components. We went into details, so we want you to go and start from there. And this episode, you will be able to fully understand what we're talking about and also be able to derive the full benefit from this episode. For today, we will be looking at the challenges and the pitfall, as well as some mistakes to avoid when you're trying to adjust your status within the US. This is a very, very crucial and important topic, and you should always be on top of things. Nonetheless, someone doesn't come into this country knowing everything that they need to do to adjust their status. Even when you are in the process, it's like something new is happening, something new is happening. So you have to keep abreast, keep on top of it, and make sure you rely on authentic information. But today we will do a great job in helping you, at least to put you in a better footing, so that you are able to avoid some of the challenges or maneuver your way properly within the system without much stress and fatigue, or having to violate anything along the way. And hopefully you can transition fully into the US, enjoy your work and family and every other thing you have always dreamt of while you were inside Molu in Lagos. So we hope you have a great time with us. I would hand it over to Blessing to take us away, to take it away today.
All right. Thank you, Ernie. Thank you again for the warm introduction, and welcome everybody to our sixth episode. And like Ernie said, it was quite interesting. We went over the different immigration paths that you can use to get into the U.S. But today, interestingly, we thought about what we are going to talk about, and it came we agreed that I think something that is very important, that will be very important to a lot of people that are coming into the country newly, or that intends to come into the country, is to know some of the challenges, the pitfalls, the mistakes to avoid in when making your immigration journey, and also planning to immigrate to the US. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. The common mistakes that can impact your immigration status, and this topic is also very important for those that are already here, already in the US, on different, immigration, with different immigration status. And so we hope, you enjoyed, we'll, as usual, we always, we look forward to the feedback from you, and sharing your experiences, and also maybe questions, perhaps you have questions that you would like to have addressed. We would definitely love to hear from you, after this episode. So one of the most common mistakes, the pick that gets them to run out of, to get out of legal status, with their immigration status in the U.S. is working without proper authorization. Working without proper authorization. Last week we talked about the different types of visa, and some of the visa types allows you to work legally in the US, but some other visa types do not allow you to work in the US. So it is very, very important to know that the visa that you have in the country, or you are intending to get, if you are planning to come into the country, it is important to know if you can work with it or not. So a lot of people think, once you get into the country, you come in here, regardless of the type of visa they're using or how you get into the country, you just want to start making money. Of course, that's a great plan, for majority of the people, or most of the people that, come into the US or intend to come into the US. That is the main goal, make some money, in the US. But you want to be sure that you're doing it the right way. Because if you at some point get out of status, that could have legal implications, and you'll be violating your visa provisions. So unauthorized work can result in automatic visa violations. Unauthorized work, and what do we mean by unauthorized work? Sometimes that talking about, some people want to do freelancing and cash jobs. And it's like, oh, freelancing, why can't I, if, for example, a student with an F1 visa who is permitted to only work within the campus, your F1 visa only allows you to work on campus as a student. You are not permitted to work outside the campus, especially during these school sessions, regular sections. You're not permitted to work outside the campus, with your F1 visa. But then it's like, oh, but I can do something, on the side where I can get cash, under the table, or do some kind of freelancing work, is that still not allowed? The provisions, to the best of our knowledge, for F1 visa does not allow you to do anything else outside the campus. If you are earning anything that will require you, that will make you to be earning money outside the campus, outside your school, you will, if you are, partaking in that or getting into that, you will be violating your visa provision. You will be violating your visa provision. Now, again, like Annie said earlier, we are not lawyers, and for most of these things that we'll be talking about today, if at any point, you have some questions that seem to be legal questions, it will be very important for you to, seek the help of an attorney, an immigration attorney, who can help, or is much more knowledgeable about everything, immigration, visas, and whatnot. F1 visa, like I said earlier, allows you to work on campus. Now there is what they call the F2 visa as well. The F2 is the dependent visa. So for someone coming to the country as a student, you get an F1 visa, and then a spouse or someone or children or another dependent or someone that's claiming to be dependent on the F1 visa holder, will come with what they call an F2 visa. With an F2 visa, you are not permitted to work. F2 visas are not permitted to work, whether on campus or outside campus. They don't have permission to work because they are considered dependent. So they're dependent on the person that is the F1. Yeah. So, a lot of people have actually had situations in the past, people, coming with F2 visas and, working with that. And, one case that I know very clearly, the person actually got into trouble, for it, got into trouble for it because a lot of times, you can go to some places like, but this person in particular went to a store to go and work as a clerk in a store, like a store clerk, thinking that, he had the right authorization to work because the spouse who is in school on F1 had authorization to work. So he thought he also had authorization to work as an F2 visa holder. And he never wanted to just stay at home, doing nothing. And, went to the clerk. He actually got a job because the person at the store also just needed someone, and they never thought about the fact that, maybe this person is allowed to work here legally or not. For some reasons, they didn't do their due diligence. And this person was working as a clerk and got into trouble with the police. And that was when they started looking into, okay, how did you get here? Where is the papers? Are you allowed to work? And, it became a major issue. So,
but wait, let's just
for the purpose of our listeners.
How did the person work without socials? I'm just curious. For you to work in the US, you have a social security number. For F2 dependents, because I am very aware of the process, you don't have a social security number. So how was the person working without socials?
Again, like I said, the person went to the store to get a job, and I had no idea how they're able to get a person, to start working. Obviously, the store owner, had, some, maybe they didn't do all the necessary background checks that they usually do. Some of these local clerks in the rural areas, this was in Statesboro, in the rural area, they don't stop. It's not every one of them that actually go through the whole process of properly checking if this person, because they pay with cash. It's like.
So that was my next question. So they were paying him in cash. Okay, that's so that's eliminates social. Yeah.
Yeah, they were paying him with cash. So, and it's more like a part-time. It's not like a full-time 8 hours a day job. It's just like a few hours a day, and then the person calls like, okay, hey, can you come in today? Cover for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. So that's the arrangement that they had. At the time. So it's likely that the owner, perhaps knew that, this person is not allowed to work here legally or is not supposed to, but he just didn't care, at the time. But the F2 visa holder actually thought he would be able to work. That was his thought, he actually thought, it's okay for him to work, in the US, even though, like you said, he couldn't get a social security number. So it's working without proper authorization. It's one of the common mistakes that people make, and that gets them into violating their visa provisions. And another thing that people do, going back to that question of social, is using somebody else's work authorization to work. It's very, very common, especially as I was told, in big cities, very big cities like New York and, even in Atlanta, that you find people using the social security number of another person to work. So it's like coming into the country and, if I come into the country and I'm on F2 or something, or or for some reason that even my current visa status, it's no more in place. Maybe I've overstayed my visa, and then I'm still here, and then I'm going to maybe I have a brother or sister or someone with similar name, and then using their own social security information to go and apply for a job. It is very, very common, especially for people with the same first name. In fact, I know very specific of a particular case as well of somebody, the dude has the same name as his dad. So the way people have like
something like a junior,
yeah. Had the same name as his dad, So there are situations like that. A lot of situations like that, people with very similar name and then using the work authorization of somebody with the same name to go get a job. So that is very, very.
I just wanted to maybe clarify something. You mentioned social security. You also mentioned work. We initially mentioned work authorization. Do they combine the two, or they just? Maybe you don't know, but I'm just thinking in my head. I'm really thinking out loud, because you could have a conditional social security, and then you have a work authorization. Work authorization. It's it's kind of like the same, but maybe it's not necessarily the same. It depends, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it depends on the visa status, like the type of visa, right? So I made my example giving an F1, F2 visa situation.
I think that's why.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So and for somebody on with H1B, or somebody applying for green card and all that, they go through the process of getting an EAD first, before switching over. So it all depends on the type of visa type to determine
that they want to use,
if they have work authorization. So I don't think necessarily every visa comes with a whole different work authorization document. So so like as an F1 visa holder, being a student, as soon as you are able to get a social security number, like you said, that I think serves as your authorization, because even on the social security card, they are going to write on it something like only permitted to work maybe within stipulated. I can't remember the exact way they put it on the social security card, but then as an F1 student, they added there that maybe only permitted to work within I'm not sure they put school area or something, but I know they had a stipulation
really
conditional.
Yeah, just to add to that, no, they don't put anything on the socials. They don't write any conditions on the socials. For F1 students, because I just took a look at my socials. I just took a look at my socials.
The first social security card that I had, there was something on it.
I think they changed the policy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So, because for mine, clearly it's just the number that's there, and it's just like every other social security card. You can't even differentiate between that and maybe a typical American citizen. Maybe during your time, like we said, administration influences immigration policies a lot. So it's possible that maybe prior to I coming in, because I came in after you, in my socials, I don't think there's any such restrictions.
Another thing could also be just normal administrative improvement over time now. It could be that in a particular number series could identify you without necessarily saying there's restriction on it. Maybe an extra T, that kind of thing on it.
So maybe there are numbers or digits in there that only an admin, a social security admin officer can actually just look at it and tell that this guy is a student. And that's very possible. As you said, it might be an improvement in the process whereby they make it a lot seamless. Now, just to add a little bit, not to take away from what Blessing is saying, I think from some visa provisions like the F1 already comes with work authorization, which Blessing already said, right? So the the EAD itself is just the real work authorization. Everybody has socials. So if you're applying for EAD, they also ask you to apply for a social. Because I think basically what they need is social for, to be honest, is for tax purposes, Medicaid and Medicare, eventually. Right? So, but the EAD basically is what gives you as a foreign alien the ability to actually work. I just want to put that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I was just thinking about it also, like, people that do some of this stuff, like imagine an F1 student coming and wants to work outside. How will the person know? The person you are going to, maybe we're going to the store, how would they know? Sometimes even the police do not even know that you are not supposed to be working off campus.
Yes.
And yeah, the police sometimes do not even know, because they feel like, okay, you are a student, you have authorization to be here, you are on a legal visa to be here, so, and then you're allowed to work. Sometimes they really I feel like sometimes they really don't know that you're not supposed to work outside campus, except maybe they are already used to, or they've encountered prior situations where it's been made clear to them that, okay, this person is not actually allowed or supposed to work outside campus. So that's why you find it, that's why a lot of people are able to still, game the system, to still be working, outside campus, even as an F1 or F2 visa holder.
Yeah.
Like we said in previous episode, this is very common, or let me not say very common, but easier to do if you are in an institution that is within a big city, compared to an institution in a smaller city.
Yeah, just to add to that, why some of this is what you said is of course valid, is also that these university systems, they're almost like an entire organization that they could have like confessions that is huge, is in somewhere else you don't even know is part of the university. They have all these businesses around, either within like Atlanta, for example, that is even part of the school, but it's like it's somewhere so far. So I think they don't want to bother themselves with that, because on the other hand, at the end of the day, the law is always there in some ways, waiting for you. Waiting for you when you want.
And when you want to adjust your salary, that's why they always ask for your tax form for USCIS. So that's how they know. I'm trying to address the question of how do they know if you have worked outside of the system. So the only way, because like you said, if it is not on the socials, if they don't know who you are, like that you are a student, they won't be able to tell if you're actually infringing on any immigration laws. But when you're adjusting status, you can do everything you want to do. So, but when you want to adjust status, that's when they're going to wait for you, because part of the requirement of adjusting that status is your US tax forms. And in the tax forms, they're clearly going to see when you have actually worked outside.
Yeah. Except again, we're not trying to show people how to game the system. That is not our intention. We're only pointing out, some flaws in the system and how people are able to get into trouble. And just giving an example. So the point I'm trying to make is, people doing working under the table. That kind of situation, a lot of times they're able to get away with it, because when you're working under the table, your record, your name is not recorded. You wouldn't get like is it 1099 or W2 at the end of the year, depending on the agreement that you have with whosoever is the employer. In December, they are not going to provide all that for you, because when you have a 1099 or W2, then the information is with the IRS.
Yes.
So at that point, you are required to file, and you must report it. So, and that is the only way USCIS can get to know that, okay, you actually worked, outside campus, or you've violated your visa provision, in regards to working authorization.
Yeah.
So, but again, we're not telling people
Just
to
to add to
fill
that,
that up.
I think if they want to pick you, they would pick you. They just don't. You're just too. They don't have enough resources to start looking for one person somewhere. Even if the person is doing under the. Look at how they are doing now in recent times. They are picking people left, right, center, whether they are doing it under G or whatever. So I want to imagine the administration is quite robust enough to figure out how and where these people might be doing stuff. Now enforcement is a different thing. So I guess that's why they just kind of wait and But now when the administration is particularly pressing for it, of course, they spring into action, pick people in places you cannot even imagine. So I think that's the danger.
Yes, and I was listening to a documentary on, like you just said, for ICE. They were comparing past administrations, right? But also, the reason they don't do that a lot, to your point, is a particular ICE officer was saying the amount of resources that goes into trying to catch and deport somebody.
It's too much.
It's huge. That's why sometimes you see that certain administrations are just like, man, just let it go. Especially if this guy is not committing crime, it's not killing anybody. Because they showed a video where they did surveillance of a particular center. Bro, for like 3 weeks, you had people, ICE agents on that center, no sleep. Those are taxpayer dollars. Burning.
Can you imagine?
But eventually, when they made the arrest, this was after 3 weeks, they caught about 1 or 2 persons. Imagine, you see what I'm saying? Like, imagine.
You're really making my point.
Yeah, so some administration, they know. I mean, they have notorious centers where they know they do under the table. These guys, they know this because from a lot of where you have everywhere digitalized now, you have cameras everywhere. So they know people coming in and out. Some centers have been notorious for employing people, immigrants that don't have any work. So they know those places. So, but the issue is actually enforcing it. It's a lot of resources. So they do like a cost benefit analysis and say,
every time you have to do that.
Let's just let it go.
Let me just go.
This guy, when he's adjusting status. Absolutely. So so that's working without proper authorization is one of the major pitfalls and mistakes to avoid, in immigration. Another very important point is failing to file for OPT or H-1B on time. Last week we talked, extensively on, OPT and H-1B. And what they mean, and missing OPT deadlines can leave graduates without legal work authorization. Again, OPT, I think it's optional practical training.
Yes.
That's the full name. So it's more like, again, it's the authorization that you have to, they give you OPT already to work, after when you graduate from school. You do a 2-year program, a 1-year program, a 3-year program, 4-year program. Once you graduate, for you to remain in legal status, you work with an OPT. We talked about that, I think, last episode or 2 episodes before now. But you have to do the work as a student to apply for your OPT early. You have to do the work as a student to apply for your OPT early, because it takes a while for the DSO in your school to apply for it, to send in your information to USCIS and for them to give approval. So the earlier you get it, as soon as you know that you are about to wrap up your program, start speaking with your DSO to know the best time to put in the information. Don't wait till maybe you finally graduated and then you have chilled for like 1 week or 2 weeks, and then at that point you're like, okay, let me see what's gonna happen next. It might be late at that point, because you want to be sure that you do not at any point fall out of status. Your visa, F1 visa, most likely will be 2 years, but then when you're coming in, they will give you what they call I-20 as a student. If you're coming in as a student, they give you the I-20. The I-20 typically is a longer authorization, which actually covers the duration of your program. I think even up to 6 months after the expected end of your program. So if you do 4 years program, your I-20 will stay the time you are starting to the time you are expected expected to finish your program. Even if your visa had already expired, your I-20 still gives you legal covering, legal covering to remain in the U.S. as a student. But if your I-20, for example, if you're graduating by May 15th and your I-20, you have your I-20 states till maybe May 20th or June 1st or something, if they give you some days extra, your OPT should kick in about as soon as possible, which is the authorization that you have. Because as soon as the date on your I-20 ends, and a day after that, if you do not have any other status or any other documents legally to be here, you are out of status.
If you don't like feeling lost but still want to move to the US, then tune into the McBlaney Podcast Show. Meet E&I, Blessing, and Ikohi, your friendly guides to making the big move to the US. Whether you're dreaming of new opportunities or reuniting with family, we've got you covered. Our mission? To give you the tips, tricks, and insights you need to navigate the immigration process smoothly. So grab your headphones and get ready to embark on your journey with us. Welcome aboard.
So you want to make sure that your OPT kicks in right about the time your I-20 is ending or before your I-20 actually ends, so that it can convert, you get a new I-20 that will not show they give you a new I-20 with the OPT document, which will now show like your new date, legal date that you can work in the US. So for a lot of graduates, especially students, undergrads, graduate students, please do not wait for too long to miss the OPT application deadlines. The same thing goes, to H-1B, an employer-sponsored green cards. A lot of times, the challenges there is people do not communicate with their employers, because employers are usually unaware of the visa timelines. So we talked about this, I think, last week as well. Employers are not usually aware of the visa timelines when you're supposed to apply, for the visa, when it's ending, and what you're supposed to do next. A lot of times the employers do not know. So it is very, very important and key that you, who is holding the H-1B visa, it is very important that you keep up with the date, and also, doing constant communication with the employers, and whoever is in charge of processing the H-1B visa at your place of work. So make sure that they're on top of it, because as soon as your date is over and you don't have any new documents to back you, you're already out of status. And it could be very, very, it'll be a major mistake, that can set you back. And you don't want to be working, because as soon as the H-1B is over like that, and there's no extension, there is nothing else, your employer, in some organizations, in fact, they will be telling that, okay, sorry, we cannot, your visa, especially for organizations that are much more coordinated, it's the legal office that will probably even reach out to you. And like, hey, your H-1B is going to expire at this particular time. If there's nothing else going on, if you don't bring any authorization, your work ends. Your job with them, your work with that company ends on that day. You can no longer work for them. So it's very important to always communicate with the employer, be on top of your dates, making sure that you're not missing any deadlines, ensuring that you are working within legal authorization, every single time.
Just to chip in, Blessing, before you go. So I just want two things. The DSO timeline, it's for the OPT process, because I did that. It's usually they want you to start it 3 months before the end of your program. So if you're graduating in December, it's recommended you start having our conversations from October. Try putting your documentation in. But even if you don't do it, you still have 60 days after the end of your program to be able to put in your...
After the end of the program.
Yes, 60 days after the end of the program to be able to put in your documents to be able to get an OPT. Because like in my case, I did it in January, I graduated in December. So I'm not saying wait, I'm saying start early. Yeah. But usually for students, sometimes, especially if you're doing a dissertation, Sometimes this process for PhD gets a little bit crazy, and people tend not to be able to juggle many things at once. So if you can handle the tax, it's fine. But I'm just saying you also have 60 days after the end of your program to be able to put in your application. And it's even easier now because the USCIS has given us an avenue to be able to do what you call premium processing. So I'm saying if you are pressed for time, the USCIS is ready to take 2,500 from your hand and say, Baba, bring the money. Don't worry, you're not going to lose money. Now, usually OPT don't get denied, especially in STEM. I've never had cases where they don't approve your OPT. I've never heard of that. Whether you have a job offer or not, right? So you can apply for the OPT, but it's always important. The school also gets back to you. I think the school gives you another, after you apply for your OPT, the school gives you like 3 months to be able to send in an employer. So because OPTs, you're trying to use your skills, which you picked up during school, experience. Yeah, that's the essence of the OPT, because they want you to be able to practice that for a year within the US. So the essence of you have to be able to get a job within that grace period, supply that information to the school, and then they are going to generate for you a new I-20. And on that I-20, it's just like a regular I-20, but that I-20 is an OPT I-20. So instead of carrying your school, like in my case, Georgia State is going to say the company you're working for, your start date, and when it's going to end. So basically, that's how the OPT, the I-20 document becomes shaped. Then towards the end of the OPT2, the school reaches out to you too, and your employer has also reached out to you, just like you said, for the legal department. The school also reaches out to you to let you know that, are you extending your OPT periods for another 2 years? Are you still with the same employer? They would need you to go on, like for Georgia State, you have to go on iStart, fill out those informations and say, okay, I'm still with the same employer. You submit that information, then the GS will just generate a fresh I-20 and sends to your email, which is, of course, it might be your school email if you still have a school email with them, or your personal email. Then for the HB1 timeline, the enrollment period is usually 3 weeks. Like for this year, it was March 7th to, it's still open to 28. So if you have 3 weeks to be able to put in your application. So as long as you have all your documents ready before the enrollment period for the H1B, then I think you're good.
Good.
Yeah. I'd like to add to this this portion of the conversation. So why would someone want to apply? I don't want to use the word on time, but on time can be relative. Within the window, of course, but potentially you can try to make sure you have enough time to get it back, so that maybe you don't lose unemployment. There have been cases of employer, they need you to start on these dates. They need you to start on these dates. They just need it to start. They just need it, and once that can't happen, sorry,
that's a problem. Yes.
So that you have to figure that out. In my case, they had to wait, I think, 3 months. It was like, hey, sorry, it's not ready. Sorry, it's not ready. Now, why wasn't it ready? This is very, very important. Nigerian passport. It's very, very important.
Your passport expired. That's why.
It already expired.
Yeah, I had a similar issue.
And it took 5 months at the time. It's now better from what I'm seeing, I think. So
Benny, I don't think so.
Are you sure?
I don't know, but I
think
my
it's
passport. I did my passport last year, and I live in Atlanta. It took me. They will ask you to submit an envelope that they are going to ship it to your mailbox, which they eventually did. So they will give you on the piece of paper. They will give you an estimated period. Most of the time, they write 3 to 4 weeks, but it's longer than that.
Oh yeah. So the funny thing about that thing that happened to me. That week, I know 2 people that went, I think on a Monday, I went on a Thursday. They got theirs, one got ours in 1 month, the other maybe a month and 2 weeks, and I had to wait 5. So that component of things, COVID-2 and development here and there, should just be aware of anything that has to do, understand the process, subset of the process, which in this case, you need all these documents. Do you already have them? Do you have them up to date? Those things you need to make sure you take care of them. Because I think one of the things you were talking about them not denying OPT. If your documents are not complete, bro, it's just not complete. You're not ready to file. They're not going to. No. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying.
No, I mean, as a student, that's going to be very rare.
It goes without saying. You are correct. You are correct. I'm just saying. But if your document is incomplete, what do you want them to do?
They will deny it, of course.
Create a document for you. No, they're not going to create a Nigerian passport for you.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to say, that's a fool's errand that you are running if you're sending incomplete document. They don't deny it, basically. So that as far as we know. So I think I just wanted to highlight that portion.
Yes,
very important. Some people have lost their employment for that reason, and it's like, okay, what do? You file for your Nigerian passport on time. It's not coming out yet. Meanwhile, someone filed 2 days, 3 days before, they got theirs on time at the same. So you have to be aware of that and try to put that into consideration.
Yeah.
Something very minor I just want to add to it is also, depending on the state that you're in, I don't know how it works in some other state. Your driver's license expires in the state of Texas, expires on the last day of your OPT. So I think it's like that in general. I don't know. Maybe
I don't remember exactly, but I think when I was on F1, I think my driver license, the first driver license I had, I think it probably was, I think it expired on the last date on the I-20.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, well, I meant I-20, but it's really the same, right?
Yeah, because the OPT is on the I-20.
I-20 is the right word. But there was something particular about. I think they check with the I don't know if it's the USCIS. They actually check something at the DMV. They confirm. There's a way they confirm something. At least I knew they did that. See what last date to put, because I had my driver's license was about to expire, and this can become very important. You are trying to move, you might want to relocate, and state to state, you may not be able to drive and things like that. So my driver's license, they extended it for about 3 months, just because that was how far they could go. There was nothing you could do, right? So these are some. It's kind of minor, but it can impact. You don't want to drive without a valid driver's license. If anything happens, especially if it happens in all these smaller counties,
it becomes a major issue.
Yeah. So it's kind of not within what we're talking about, but it's like this system, the way they all kind of work together.
Of course.
It's very, very important to just be mindful. Just remember, okay, maybe early on, see when your driver's license is about to expire. Know when maybe you need to extend it a little bit so it covers you for a little period when you're transitioning, as the case may be. That might be necessary as well. I just wanted to add that to it.
Yeah. So I mean, absolutely. That is very, very important to point out. And well, moving on. We talked about working without proper authorization or proper documentation of the proper document. And how about traveling without proper documentation? Traveling without proper documentation, that's one other mistake that you need to avoid as an immigrant.
Traveling outside of the country, is that what you mean, or within the country?
Outside of the country.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, traveling within the US, I think you already just made a very valid point in regards to that, which talking about a driver license, having a valid driver license that is not expired. But traveling outside the US, a lot of us coming from our different countries, and sometimes people come in and stay several years, they've not been out, but for some reasons you really need to visit your home country or visit another country, for whatever reason, so you want to make sure that you have proper documentation. Remember earlier I said, as an F1 student, typically, I think depending on the country, but a country like Nigeria, if I'm still right, a couple of years ago, they give you 2 years visa, 2 years on your visa, even if you're coming, excuse me, coming for a 4-year program. However, your I-20 is what typically covers you, because on your I-20, the actual date of your, program, or how long you are legally allowed to be here, is written on the I-20, which most times is longer than the 2-year visa that you're giving. I think for some countries, I was told they have like a longer number of years on their for their visa. So if your visa has expired as an F1 student, you can still travel as far as your I-20 still shows that you are in school. As far as your I-20 still shows, the date on I-20 still shows that, okay, it hasn't expired yet. You are not on the last date, it's reflected on your I-20. However, the problem is when you want to come back into the country, right? Can you come back into the US with an expired US visa? Even if your I-20 is still valid, can you come back into the US with an expired US visa? No. You cannot come back into the country with an expired US visa. That's why a lot of people, they try to make sure that even when they travel outside, they try to make sure that they get like a new visa. They renew their visa before they're able to come in. And using the example of Nigerians again, sometimes people don't want to travel all the way to Nigeria to go and renew their visa, so they go to neighboring countries like Mexico or Canada, to go and renew their visa to get another visa. And you want to make sure you go before the current visa expires, whatever is on your current visa, because going out there to get a renewal, even if your I-20 is still valid, going out is not a guarantee that you're going to grant you the visa. So imagine traveling outside, going to Nigeria or going to a neighboring country like Mexico or Canada to get a visa renewal, and you're denied, and the current visa has expired. That is a major problem, because you won't be able to come into the country. You get stopped at the border. You're not able to come into the country at that point. So that is a very, very important thing that you need to know when you're traveling. Make sure that you have proper documentation that would allow you to travel and be able to come back into the country legally. All right. There are other special cases, traveling, while on OPT, while traveling, while your visa application or green card application is pending, or people who have like what they call a TPS, or that's temporary protection status, or DACA. So TPS, temporary protection status, is usually given to I think they give to some people from the maybe having trouble in their countries. And like
Haiti is a typical example because of the earthquakes. They give it to people that have had natural disasters in their country and they are seeking refuge or shelter in the US. Then also for the guys that also experience wars, they can get TPS within the US.
Yeah, so TPS, it's something. It's that's and then DACA. DACA is deferred action. What is DACA again? I was checking it earlier. Deferred action for childhood arrivals. So DACA is a status that was given to, and then mostly they gave it to kids of immigrants that came in illegally, into the country. So immigrants that came in illegally into the country, and this is very common with immigrants that came in illegally, especially from through the southern border. They give that, and then they come into the country, and then they give birth to children here, and these children go to school here, but they are not citizens. I mean, they become Are they citizens? When
No, they are not born here. But DACA is not for, because once you are born in the US,
so
you are,
they came in, they brought them in, right? They brought them in as kids.
yeah, so that's why it's childhood arrival. So these are kids.
Yeah.
These are kids of immigrants, illegal immigrants, like you said, that came in with their parents into the country. But you have to be below certain ages, because the minute you're born here, you're automatically a U.S. citizen, so that doesn't apply.
Yeah. So absolutely. So that's very correct. And these people that came in, and it's not their fault. As kids, they follow their parents. They're going with their parents. Wherever their parents are taking them to. So they've been here for several years. There are a lot of people in the country, in America today, that they have DACA status, and they've been here for like 10 years, 20 years, or even more. They've been under DACA status. So it's some kind of protection, status that they have, but they still have limitations as well. And people like that, can they travel outside the US? If they want to, if they need to, if they travel outside the US, if you have a TPS, if you're under TPS or DACA, are you able to travel outside the US and come back legally? Yes, you can. However, you have to be very, very careful. You have to be very, very careful, because coming back, you need to get, something that they call advanced parole. So, and that is like a document that allow non-citizens to temporarily travel, outside the United States and then return without applying for a visa. The advanced parole is granted by the USCIS, Custom and Immigration Services. But again, it is not a guarantee that, you will be granted or you will be given one. So it's very, very essential, for somebody or people within that, status, before they travel, they want to make sure that they have the advanced parole and they are covered. Otherwise, they may not be able to come back into the country. Sometimes, I think, depending on the country, I think they might be able to get the advanced parole at the border, coming in. But what if an officer, immigration officer, decides that they're not going to grant it? Then the person becomes stuck. At that point, they're not able to come in. So it is very, very, important. And then for those that are also, for those that have applied for a green card and they are waiting for their green card to come in, to get for their green card applications to be approved, can they travel outside the US and come back into the country, while they are waiting? It's typically not a safe thing to do. It's typically not a safe thing to do when you are in that pending status. It's typically not a very, very wise thing to do, to travel outside, because you can get stuck, and not be able to come back into the country at that point. Especially even if you have some kind of documentation to show that, oh, look, I've applied for my green card, and they are processing it. As far as you do not have an approval yet, then you do not have any authorization to, even work. Even if you've gotten a document or maybe email to show that, or status update to show that that's been approved, I wouldn't even advise that you travel until you get the green card itself, in your hands. I wouldn't advise that you actually travel outside the country, just to make sure that even if you're able to come back in, you may encounter a lot of back and forth at the border. It might be a lot of, headache, that you would have to deal with at the border, coming back in. So traveling with
just to maybe a question. So DACA, you wouldn't get DACA if you applied for a visa, F1 visa from coming in. So that wouldn't apply, right? To what I'm saying is,
no, DACA is not.
Yeah. I'm just clarifying that if you are on DACA status, you are most likely not an F1, right? Because you're already inside.
True.
Yes, you're already inside.
Yes.
So you have F1. However, I've seen DACA people come. They go to school. They don't just convert to F1. They're still on the DACA For the
On
well,
the
for the
DACA
one that I
status,
knew,
yeah.
for the one that I knew, they're still on the DACA status. But it's a lot of headache, right? Because it's like the anxiety of what's going to happen. Sometimes Congress is saying they want to scrap it, they want to continue it, then they end up, let's add 1 more year or 2 more years. It's like living your life in 2-year increments or 1-year increments.
Yeah.
It's
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Now, just to clarify, I understand the F1, F2 pathway very well, because while I was on an F1 status, I actually left the country, came back in. So I'm just going to say a few things. My experience and also what I know from interactions of other guys. For why it's so difficult from DACA to switch from DACA to F1 is, for you to get an F1 status, you have to leave the country. That's the rule. So even if you're on DACA, right now, the problem with DACA is you don't even have any roots outside of the US, because that's what the DACA is all about. The DACA is you came in as a child. Now there's no relationship with the people with your country of origin anymore. So that's why you have a protected status in the US. Because if not, ideally you should go back home, right? So they're giving you that protected status because the understanding is you don't have any roots anymore outside of the United States. So if you want to come back from DACA to F1, that's going to be very tricky. Because now, what's your country of origin, right? Because you have to actually go outside, go to a visa embassy or consulate, apply for the visa, go for an interview, speak with the consular, then then change the status.
I think some people have been, they've been able to, go out and come back in, make it.
Yeah, I'm not saying they can't do it, but I'm saying you have to leave to your country of origin.
You're correct.
Yeah,
I'm to your point. I'm just identifying that, some people have been able to go and come back, but some people have gone and that was it.
And they never got the F1 status. Exactly.
That was it. So
yeah. So the same thing applies to F2 too. For F2, you also have to leave the country. Even if it doesn't matter if your spouse, which is on F1, is here, you have to leave the country, go to your state or your home country of origin, apply for it, and come back. For in terms of visa validity for Nigeria is 2 years. For I think Ghana is 5. Kenya is 10. So, like you're saying, Blessing, it's very important you understand the validity of the visas. Now, if you are living in the United States, it's okay to live with an expired visa. But it's not okay to come back in with an expired visa, because the visa is like a key that opens the door. They don't care if you are leaving the country. That's your prerogative. You can wake up today, I can wake up today. Anybody can wake up today and say, as long as you're not a US citizen or you don't have a green card, you can say you're leaving the country. Nobody's going to hold you back. Like, all right, see ya.
See you later.
If you want to come back in, that's where you need a visa. So it's very important you understand that process. Now, for the visa validity, why it's not good to wait for your visa to get expired, not that it matters anyway, is that if you leave, you can start applying for your visas 6 to 90 days before the visa expires. So let's say your F1 visa is for 2 years. It's going to expire in December of 2025. So the smart thing to do is you probably want to leave in October, schedule an interview in Lagos, Carrington Parkway, go there before December. If they don't give you the visa, Ogbani, take a plane and quickly come back to the US before the December 2025 expires. But that would be the smart thing to do, right? So because if you don't do that, the chances of if they deny you that visa, you can't come back in, because the only way you can get into the US is through that visa. Valid. And mind you, you might actually also get the visa, and even at the border, the DPP officer can look at it and say he's still not going to grant you admission into the United States. That's why it's very tricky, right? Even the visa, though it gives you the ability to come in, there's no guarantees to it. So the smart thing to usually do, like you said, if you are trying to adjust status to a green card or to a citizenship, it's wait for the whole process to be over. You go and come back in, and you don't have to deal with all that stress. But sometimes, like you said, there might be emergencies, a loss of a loved one, family is sick, so you just have to go home. Right. So, but I'm saying if you are going to go home and you fall into those categories, make sure you have time. You understand the timelines for the visas that I just mentioned, 60 to 90 days. And also, if you're on F1, to be honest, the chances of you getting the visa is high. Let's say you're doing a PhD program, because I went through that process. My visa was expired. I went to Lagos, did a new visa, paid it was during that time they had these fees that I had to pay $160. So I paid, I got a new visa, and I was able to get back in. So that's also very important. And also for the advanced parole, you mentioned something about getting it at the border. I don't think that's how it works. So for advanced parole, you must apply it while you're in the US before leaving and get approved. The only people that can apply for advanced parole at the border are people that have green cards that have overstayed that 6 months period. Sorry, 1 year period. So if you have a green card, ideally, you shouldn't be outside of the US within six months to 1 year, depending on what's going on. They can allow you being out of the country for between 6 months to 1 year, and you can come back in. But if for certain reasons, you initially didn't plan to extend more than 1 year, and you're now outside of the United States for up to 1 year, you can actually apply for an advanced parole at your consulate in your home country. That's because you already have a green card, right? Now, because ideally, if you've overstayed 1 year, it means you are forfeiting your status as a permanent resident. You are telling them you don't want to come back to the US. So if you are saying you want to come back, your green card cannot just give you admittance. That's where you need that parole document for you to be paroled again in the country. And then it's at the discretion of the US, the CBP officer, to look at the conditions of your stay. Were you there as a reason of maybe somebody died, and there were conditions that didn't allow you to actually come within that 1 year period, then they can actually give you admission. But if you don't have a green card, you are an F1 student, you are under a protected status, or you are trying to adjust status through marriage, you have to apply for your advanced parole first, get it approved, have the document in hand
the country
before you leave the country. And now, even when you leave the country with the advanced parole, the chances of, just like a visa, because the advanced parole is very similar to a visa, the chances of you getting paroled in the country too is also at the discretion of the CBP officer. He can actually look at the document and say, well, we don't want you back in. You just stay back in Nigeria, do what you want to do. So I just wanted to be able to clarify those two informations. And lastly, if you have a valid US visa on an expired Nigerian passport, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your Nigerian passport has expired. As long as the US visa hasn't expired, you can still come back into the country. Because people need to know that there's a lot of because Eddie mentioned something about making sure that your passport is renewed on time. The best bet to go is make sure the passport is renewed before you leave. But on occasions where you can't do that because of emergency, but if the US visa is still valid, whether it's on an expired passport, the CBP officer doesn't care, because you are not a citizen of the United States. He's more interested on the validity of the visa on your passport. And if the validity of the visa is still valid, you can get admitted into the United States.
You know what I mean? What you said, I'm just thinking two things. I think Blessing would say one, so I'll skip that one. Is that really, if you are from Nigeria, even if your passport has expired, you're no longer from Nigeria. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're a Nigerian citizen. Your Nigerian passport expired. Are you no longer a Nigerian citizen?
No, you're saying Nigerian citizen.
That's what I'm saying. I think that then makes sense that, okay, your visa is okay. Yeah,
so that makes sense to the CBP officer, because you are saying Nigerian. It doesn't matter whether your passport expires or not.
However, I'm thinking maybe you might have issues with flying in the first place. I don't know. Maybe.
But then,
will not let you fly in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. If your passport is expired, they won't let you go.
That's not US immigration. Now, that is the plain authorities.
Yeah, potentially.
So the way it works is this, right? Before you actually check in from the US Nigerian airport, the Nigerian airport authority is the airport authority that will deny you from getting onto the plane. It has nothing to do with the United States. So if you're living in
customs, because the customs and border protection,
that's what I'm saying. Is not the United States, right? It's not the United States, right? It's the Nigeria customs. So if you can actually pass through the immigration in Nigeria, I'm just saying hypothetically, and get on the plane with an expired passport. Yeah. But also remember this: your passport can also expire in transit. So what do I mean? So you are leaving Nigeria, your passport is expiring the next day. I've seen it like there have been cases like that. So let's say your passport expires 31st of March 2025. You are flying out of Nigeria 30th of March. You are going to get to the US 31st or on the 1st, depending on if it's a 40-hour flight. So if it's a 40-hour flight, which is over 2 days, they are going to get you on the 1st, which is after the validity or after the expiration of your passport. So if you have been able to enter the plane, even if your passport was valid as at that time, getting to the US border, if it becomes expired, they'll still let you in. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, renew your passport if you can.
You have got problems.
Before someone thinks that, okay, sorry, guys, okay, sorry, oh, it expired today, yesterday, oh, sorry. Sorry. What can we do? Yeah.
And that problem is very common with people with like maybe double passports, like double citizenship, like you're a Nigerian citizen, you're also an American citizen, and then you want to travel to a place like Nigeria, and you're like, okay, you go with both, passports, you travel to Nigeria, and you're like, and your Nigerian passport has expired, and then you're coming back into the US because you want to use your US passport at that time. Fine, that would work.
You should be able to, right?
No, that should work.
Yeah,
in fact, you can travel to Nigeria with an expired passport. It doesn't matter. Nigeria, you are a citizen of Nigeria. They will take you. So money they can't drive you away. So let your passport be 10 years expired. But the only thing is you can't leave the country. You can't leave the country with an expired. That's the difference. You can actually come into Nigeria with an expired passport, but leaving the country with an expired passport is where the problem is. Because then customs we want to be sure that before you actually take the plane, your passport is renewed. The same thing also applies to the US. If you are coming to the US with an expired US passport, the United States will also take you. But it might be difficult for you to travel out of the country with an expired passport.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that is the advantage that we have here, having three people with varying experiences, that can help polish some of these points, based on lived experiences. So thank you very much for at least, maybe helping us to straighten some of the facts, as applicable. And, some of these things too. And that's why it's also very important for people, who are going through this immigration journey to always ensure that they also they keep abreast with immigration laws and policies, because like we said before, some of these things, a lot of times some rules may change, which, depending on, especially when a new administration comes in, and that ties a lot to my next point, talking about overstaying a visa, and its consequences, like people travel and then, overstaying visa. You mentioned, people, maybe somebody applying, and you made a point regarding the green card and overstaying the period you're supposed to stay.
Staying here outside of the country, over a year.
So there are consequences to that. So other visa statuses as well, when you overstay your visa, there are also consequences as well, unlawful presence. And I think based on the current law, if it hasn't changed, if you have stayed 180 days plus, more than 180 days, beyond the time you are allowed to stay in the country, it can actually lead to a 3-year ban. And if you have stayed 365 days plus, that's a year plus, it can lead to a 10-year ban, from being able to come back into the country if you are deported. So it is very, very essential that, you do not overstay visa. People, of course, we find a lot of people that, do it, and while in the country, they overstay their visa and they try to change their status, And I think I'm not sure if this is very correct. Again, this, needs to be confirmed or discussed with an attorney, immigration attorney. But I think the only way that, you can actually, if you have overstayed your visa and you're out of status, marriage is probably one of the very few ways that you can change your status without, any issue, which I think you addressed in the previous episode. like maybe somebody has been here, has overstayed their visa, they're out of status, and then they get married to an American citizen. Then that's probably the only way that they can be able to get their be able to like legally stay in the U.S. Still, but other type of visa, we always said it should just be just into to leave.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it should be confirmed. I want to imagine, because the immigration law is broad, complex, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be potentially, something that the lawyer or the lawyer can look at, or the law allows you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they separate they grade the years, like the number of time, right? Okay, maybe it's a couple of days. Maybe you can beg.
Yeah, that was my question. If it was
Maybe you
less than 180, what happens? But let's say, like you said, 180, you get a fine or you get a ban for 2 years. So for the guys that, let's say, leave 10 days after.
Yeah, so
My question is, does it count?
Yeah, it counts. Once you've stayed 1 minute after it. Now the issue is they want to look at someone that has stayed 1 month after differently to someone that has stayed 10 years or 6 months or 1 year after. I think that's what they're trying to do. So maybe there's something that happened that your lawyer can argue that, oh, this person overstayed, yes. But look at this. Okay, why would you overstay 1 year? It becomes even difficult to start to argue and explain. Yeah. Of course, they all violated as to the letter of the law. There's no blah, blah, blah. This is the date. 11:59 on that date, the unlawful presence starts to accrue, right? So I think that's why they try to grade it. So maybe there's that early portion. There could be something that could be explained. Of course, you're still at the mercy of the immigration folks to approve.
Officers.
But then maybe it's easier even for your lawyer to say, okay, let me try, because you have lawyers even not taking some cases. Like, man, this case, I don't like it. I don't like this case. So you want, so that.
Absolutely.
If you don't like feeling lost but still want to move to the US, then tune into the McBlaney Podcast Show. Meet E&I, Blessing, and Ikohi, your friendly guides to making the big move to the US. Whether you're dreaming of new opportunities or reuniting with family, we've got you covered. Our mission? To give you the tips, tricks, and insights you need to navigate the immigration process smoothly. So grab your headphones and get ready to embark on your journey with us. Welcome aboard.
Working outside of the school system, unlawful presence, I think those are like some of the two major things that can catch up with F1.
Yeah, and also to add to that, you're right. There are some. I think marriage is one of the quickest and easiest ways. But there's also a way to adjust your status as long as you're still within status. I know we're talking about once you have overstayed your status. So, like if you have a B1, B2 visa, you can switch your status on your own to an F1. Likewise, if you have an F2, you can switch from an F2 to an F1. Usually, the process is you got to leave the country, apply for an F1 visa interview, go through the whole process and come back in, because that's a lot quicker. But there's another route you can use called Form I-539. These are for visitors visas and F2 visas, because this is what applies to most immigrants coming from African country. Now, the process with that is this. It's a long, why people don't do it. It's a long process with a lot of documentations. Now you have it's just like you marrying somebody and proving that the marriage is legal, that you're not committing fraud. If you're going to use I-539, you have to tell them that, okay, what changed? You told us that you were coming here to be with your spouse. You told us that you're coming here to see Disney. Now you want to go to school, or now so you have to give intent, a lot of documentations. You have to get a valid admission already from an approved school. You have to get service number, like the whole things you need to get at an F1. You have to get all those things already, right? And also have more document to prove. And also the problem with that process of switching status is not like where you have to go to a consulate and you know your fate immediately. You are filling a form I-539 and Only God knows with all the backlogs when USCIS is going to get to you. So now the problem with that is if your B1 visa is giving you a 6-month validity period to stay, and you're trying to switch your status to the from I-539, it's almost 100% guarantee. I'm not saying in some certain cases it's different. It's almost 100% guarantee that you're going to be out of status.
Yeah.
And once you're out of status, the I-539 doesn't apply anymore. You see where it's tricky? Because you cannot be out of status to be able to switch from status to status. So the form applies when you are waiting status.
Why you're still
if you don't process that form on time, you're going to be out of status, and then the form doesn't apply, and then USCIS is not going to treat your case.
Of course, and if you came in immediately and you applied for it, then that's why you came in. Then you are committing fraud.
Yeah, committing fraud. Because you can't say you came in today for Disney. Next year I want to go to school. How for you?
I think the process actually wasn't, maybe about a decade ago, it wasn't as long, right? People used to come in and convert. That's when they now try to elongate, put some administrative bottlenecks in it so that they can tease out folks that really came to visit and folks that want to visit and then say tomorrow that they want to go to school. That really, that was the intention. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're all very correct. Very valid points. Very valid points. And because of our time, I'll just, move on very quickly. And one other very important thing I want to point out is record keeping.
Before you go, I just double check now. Premium processing applies now to Form I-539.
Ooh.
So I'm saying, yeah. So within because premium processing, the way premium processing works is you get a reply within 4 to 6 weeks. So if you are paying the money, they can quickly adjudicate your case. I just want to say that before you move on.
Bring the money.
Bring in the drinks. USA has what they call it.
Bring the money. I mean, especially the administration that they love money like anything. They are money anything.
So I just had to double check. I thought about it. I said, let me double check that if there's premium processing for that now. There is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't blame them. Just as far as you can give them the money.
I mean, if they are selling this PRO for 5 million gold card, that tells you everything now. So,
yeah, exactly.
You will actually feature status.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. Anyway, so I was talking about record keeping because your documents, it's very, very important to ensure that you keep records of your original immigration documents. That's another mistakes that immigrants typically make, and you need to avoid losing your I-20 document, using your DS2's 2019 H-1B approval notices, I-94 records. If for anything, whenever you get these documents, try as much as possible to create digital copies. Digital copies, take a picture of it, scan it and, save it in your drive, whether your Google Drive or any other type of drive that you use for external storage in the cloud, and keep the physical copies as well. In fact, I had a recent experience last year when I was applying for, one of the new job that I applied to in Florida, and from the time they said, okay, we're offering you the job, till the period that I started, it took another 3 months, close to 3 months. Why? Because of all the process that goes in between. Of course, we're doing the background checks and every other thing. But then what took the longest time was when they said I should provide this, what do they call it now? Selective service documentation. And
wait,
I was like, at the time,
that document?
Yeah. Selected service
does not apply to
the thing there is
green card holder of certain ages. I think because you're a US citizen.
Yeah. At the time, when I came in as I didn't come in as a U.S. citizen, right? So, because normally as a U.S. citizen, every male U.S. citizen, once you get to 18, you are required to register for selective service. Right? So once you get to 18 years, I was not here at 18, and then I think up to like maybe 25 or 26 years or something like that. I came into the country, at the time I came in with an F1 visa status, and then as an international student, there was no way I could apply for selective service. I was not required to apply for it. By the time I became a U.S. citizen, I had already passed the eligibility period. So the other thing that I would get was a document showing a waiver, a selective service waiver. That's what I needed to see. Yeah. So I needed to get that document, and then I had to reach out to the organization that is in charge of selective. I can't remember the name of the organization again. I will try to, Google it out. The organization that is in charge of producing the document. And they requested for my passports, picture of my passport, the data page, and the page showing the visa stamp with the date that I came into the country, and my I-94, copy of my I-94, which is a service, I'm going to call it a service document, because that I-94 is what actually shows your actual date that you got into the country, the day that you got into the country, So they wanted to know, okay, from that, because that period, okay, at the time that I got into the country, then they checked that with my age, and then I don't know, whatever, they just wanted to know, like, okay, why I'm requesting for a waiver and why I have to prove to them, why I was not able to apply, or I was not qualified to apply for selective service. So telling them I was an international student and all of that, you have to show proof of it, and then I sent a document over to them. It took another 2 to 3 weeks before they responded. Yeah. So it was after the while, then eventually when they responded, I got an email that, okay, we received the document, we're processing it. Then they now had to send it by mail, because Florida, they wanted the original copy, paper copy from, of the documentation. And I had to send it by mail before I send it over to, their office. That, okay, look, I have the waiver. It was at that point that we actually negotiated a start date for the job. So I was just thinking, like, imagine that I didn't have all my record, all this paper, like my I-20, because I took pictures of every single I-20 document that I got, that I, at every point, each point of my the course of my program, from a master's to the doctorate program. I had to send a picture of every single one of them to them, and it was such a hectic process. And, that just, I don't remember that point now because of, this whole thing about keeping immigration documents. If when you misplace these documents, you may be able to get it back, but it may take you a whole long process, having to retrieve some of these records. And I think your I-94, you should be able to also retrieve it from maybe the USCIS website, but again, like I said, it's going to be a lot of back and forth, and so it's very, very important to, keep your immigration documents, because you may need it for anything at any point in time. And especially, yes, sir.
So for the waiver, do green card holders need it too?
Green card holders, everybody needs it. Everybody. I mean, depending on the job that's requesting for it.
I see. Right. So it depends. It depends on the job. Okay, I just want to get that out there, because I know a lot of green card holders that don't have that waivers, and they're actually working in the system, and no employers have actually asked for that kind of documentation. Now the second question is,
yeah.
Now the second question is, you needed I-94, you needed past your data page with the visa stamp, and you also needed your I-20.
I-20, yeah.
So you needed all three of that.
I submitted all of those as proof, because it said provide every document that shows what you came to do in the country, when you came into the country, and how long you're allowed to stay in the country. Um,
Man.
so so that's why I had to get
Yeah, you need those
send them copies of all of those.
Ordinarily, the I-90, is it the I-94? That one has your visa date, your date of birth, but maybe it doesn't show how long you're supposed to say. So they combine everything. They can see, okay, they are all checking out.
So that's very that's very key. Then another point which I think a lot of people do not consider is maintaining your address update. Especially it's very important for people who are in the process of changing status and
yes,
will be getting documents and all of that from USCIS. You want to make sure that your address, you are moving residence, please ensure that you are updating your records with USCIS, because imagine them sending your document to a wrong location and then you have to tell them that, oh, sorry, that is not the place. If it's something that you need as urgently, especially an EAD, you're waiting for your employment authorization or exactly. So that's can significantly delay you from making very good progress. And the last point
before you go, I just wanted to just to highlight the sometimes the challenge with the address. Of course you can just send it, but sometimes you don't know where your next address is going to be, but you have to leave a place, especially when you're transitioning.
Yeah, from state to state.
Get a job, it's in a different state, even within the same state. You don't have accommodation yet, but you have to live where you are. Maybe you're staying with someone for a couple of weeks. So there's usually these things that happen. So one way around it, depending on if it works, if you know someone very well trusted, that they have a constant place, at least that can cover you for that period when you are moving, within a very short space of months. Because when you turn in your form already, you can already put in care of that person, that address. Then afterwards, they will send to that person, send to you. Then you can adjust once you become stable. Then you can change the address, put it to the one that you are in, because there's that issue of moving here, moving there, staying with this person in your former state. You're still hanging with someone. Then in your new state, you don't even have that concrete address yet. This could take 2 months, 3 months, and you have to be dealing with immigration absolutely at that point. So that's potentially one way. There might be other ways to also address this, but that's one way to address that, actually.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a short story, considering we are just conversing about a case that happened with a friend. I'm hoping that when the friend watches the show, he can be able to remember the scenario. So what happened was, he was leaving Georgia at the time. He got a job in, I think he was going to Alabama. It was pretty close. He was going to Alabama. He got a role in Alabama. This person did the masters, left, and eventually, like Annie was saying, he didn't have a permanent address in Alabama. He was looking for a place, but so he was going to be squatting with a friend. Eventually figured his address, and so with all the movement and all of that, the dude completely forgot to fill out the ARO form, which you can go online on the USCIS account to fill out, and you can fill out that form as much as you can. It's there's no limit to it. So he forgot. Now they now sent an RFE, like Annie was saying. RFE has different duration. They give you timeline to respond. So RFE is where the document USCIS sent
request for further evidence.
For further evidence. Now they have the problem with the two things with RFE is, if you don't respond, it means they are going to make an adjudication based on the existing evidence they already have. And if they're already requesting for further evidence, it means the first evidence not rich. So what that simply means is you're going to get an NOID form, or you're going to get straight denial. So an NOID form is a notice of intent to deny. They can, if the adjudicating officer just likes your face, can send you that courtesy note and say, okay, you have like a week. We've not heard back from you. We have like a week for you to be able to do what you need to do. And or he just advocates the case and gives you a flat out denial. So the guy left to Alabama, and RFE came to his former address in Georgia. Of course, people were living there already. The guy threw out the yeah, somebody has moved into the apartment, and so the new guy there saw the phone. When I just threw it out and all of that. Now, the luck the guy had was he had a USCIS. That's why I'm saying is if you are adjusting status, please create a USCIS online account. Now, the advantage of the online account is you can actually go in and see all your updates. Sometimes you are not going to get, because usually you're not going to get you're not going to get the form. You're not going to get the hard copies of the ROFE. But the status is going to tell you that an ROFE has been set, right? So you need to address that. So what he did was he looked at it, he went online, he just said, let me just check. I've not heard from these guys in a while. Checked, and he saw that, oh man, there was an ROFE like a week ago. So Ogbeni now quickly picked up his phone and tried to call USCIS. Bro, that's one of the worst things ever. Calling USCIS. You have to have certain keyword to be able to beat the computerized programming. There's a word you have to say. Boys will not run. I'm not the word. Where you will need to talk to be able to get you to an officer. If not, you can be on that computer prompt, and the person you will never speak to anybody. He kept trying to beat that, but never. So, but eventually he asked around. Boys can't just guide down. Then another thing to do, to be honest, is you can actually go on your account and send an email. You have an option to be able to send them an email, and he will respond within a month. So he was able to get to speak with an officer and said, he just moved. He didn't update his address. He just did now, but he noticed that he already missed his RFE. The officer was, no, you didn't get it. So the officer was very kind. So, okay, no problem. We'll just check your email address. I will send a soft copy of what was actually sent to you. But to respond, you need the hard copy of the RFE. You cannot respond to an RFE without the original RFE for USCIS. So he told the guy that I can send this to you so that as immigration matters, it's a little bit complicated. I can send you this stuff, but request that we mail you another RFE, because the only way you can respond to that RFE is you need a physical copy. So the guy got the soft copy the next day. He went and the guy said we mailed the new RFE to his new address.
Wow.
Bro, guess what was the timeline on that RFE? That guy was giving like maybe 45 days. So before he traveled, checked, like after I don't travel by maybe 2 or 3 weeks don't pass. So he had like 6 or 7 days to the end of the RFE, bro. So the luck he had was he called, got the soft copy, started responding.
Already.
RFE came a day or two before the date. Baba just do express shipping. Bro,
The most expensive shipping you can get.
I'm just telling you, this is the way they talk about address, so it looks very minor.
Yeah.
But it can make or break your adjustment case.
Yeah.
The guy got the physical copy. I just said I should share it because you need a physical copy to be able to got a physical copy a day or two before that deadline. Quickly, because you don't really arrange the document, just go. Express. Same day delivery. He went there in the morning. He said the money is not the issue. I want this to
money cannot be the issue at that point.
I want this to deliver address.
Yeah, it has to.
So it's key.
Yeah.
Changing your address is key. I just wanted to share that story. Like it's this thing happen.
Just to emphasize, what you mentioned, a subset of what you mentioned, creating a USCIS online account. It helps you to keep record, and there's also some apps like Lawfully. That's one of the apps, one of the most popular ones. These are like independent apps, but I think they synchronize with the USCIS accounts, so that they even sometimes can notify you before I'm telling you, before you get, I don't know how, but maybe this is, I don't know if it's like public information. I can look into it to see how they get that, but they
How are
can.
they going to get your notices? That's weird.
No, they would get information that information that your notice and everything. They don't have your notice. You just have that app that immediately tells you. You get a notification, or you look into the app and it tells you, oh, they just shipped your EAD.
And it's not the USCIS app?
No, it's not USCIS app. Lawfully.
There may be a third, maybe like
It's a third party. Don't even worry.
Third party company that is working with.
It's a third party, right? So they may have maybe, I don't know, maybe special, exclusive,
access. Yeah.
Potentially.
But would they not be breaking?
But I think there would be. I think there would.
not HIPAA, like personal laws.
They won't.
Because
You will sign up for it. You.
Oh, I see.
You
So
understand?
you are already giving consent.
Yes, if you want them, and
Yeah, because I was trying to think about, but that thing can be very tricky.
Yeah. It's just that much more timeliness in terms of monitoring what is going on.
Yeah, that app is a
and
lifesaver.
Giving you. So
Yeah.
I think the USCIS account is key, very very crucial. Because the things you can do with that, and the lawful. I think there might be another one too. I just imagine there might be another one. You know how these things work. So yeah, I think that's very important. That helps to keep abreast of what's going on.
Yeah.
Are you talking about mailboxes?
Mailing addresses, you can always register, like you can use addresses in your new location.
Yeah, that's the USPS mailboxes. That's what you're talking about.
No, not even. Well, it's USPS, but it's not like, so like, for example, when I moved to DC initially, and I was staying in a hotel for a couple of weeks before, while still looking for an apartment, I didn't have an address, and my organization needed me to have a DC address,
I'm not sure you want to talk that in here.
So
I'm not sure you want to be giving us information. You say somebody I beg, we go come on that part.
No, I mean,
I think they might be okay with that actually.
The point I'm trying to make is like the point I'm trying to make there is
somebody in DC was working and didn't have an address.
I had so what I did then was create. I registered on this website. They call it iposta.com. So with iposta.com, you can get an address in any city. I can get an address in Spain. I can get an address in Colombia, like an address where all my mail will be going to. And then I will know where it is. So I knew where the place is. It's more like an office. I went there in DC. So they have, it's like a private organization or private store.
Oh, I see.
And, so they can get mail for you.
Yes. Business.
So do you have a mailbox?
Yeah, so they had mailbox. So like I registered and then they gave me my own mailbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
All my mails were going to that place. So anytime I go there, I go and pick my mail.
That is a lot better. That's smart.
Oh yeah.
So that's the address that I gave, that I dropped for initially before I got an apartment and switched to my switched to my.
That's a good one. That's a way at least to have something concrete that stays for a while. Maybe you can even use it for something else after the fact.
Yeah.
And I think potentially some of them you can authorize them to maybe open it and send you a copy, or actually send it to your address even as it is.
Yeah. They actually had that option also. I think I was paying like $9.99.
So it's not forwarding.
But so if you're not forwarding,
maybe even open it.
So if you want them to open the mail and send you, like we said, and send you like a picture of it, they will do that also.
So wait, you mean open your mail?
You would give them the authorization.
You give them the authorization to do that now. So imagine that I'm somewhere in Nigeria, for example, and then I am receiving a mail in maybe in the US. There's no way I can get here. I'm all the way in Nigeria, right? So I can tell them that, okay, and I know what I'm expecting. And I can tell them that, okay, help me open the mail and let me see what is in it. Yeah. So I give them the authorization to do that. They will do it. But you have to pay extra for that as well. Yeah. Makes sense. That's one thing that people can use when they are moving to a new address. At least in the meantime, like temporarily, and also don't forget to forward your mails don't forget to, okay, I think the name of the place is ipostal1.com. I just checked now, ipostal1.com. That's the name of the website that you go to get a virtual mailbox service. Then if you're moving as well, don't forget to forward your mail from your previous address to wherever your new address is. So that you don't keep getting important mails in the previous address when you've moved. And the very final point that I wanted to make, which is another mistakes to avoid, is trusting wrong information or immigration myth. Wrong information or immigration myth. Information is key, data is key, but as good as as much as good information can get you ahead, wrong information can set you back as well. So even for us, that's why at the beginning we made it clear that we are not immigration attorneys. We are perhaps not qualified to even give immigration advice. We are just sharing experiences with you, and also some of the things that we've noticed and that we feel that will be very beneficial to you. We are not we're not like giving legal guidance or something like that. So please always use verified legal guidance from immigration attorneys, official USCIS website, CBP sites. For students, always contact your DSOs, designated school officials. If you need clarification on any immigration related questions or inquiries, please always get information from people who are authorized to give you the authentic information. And be very, very wary of immigration forums, social media. Word of mouth advice can be misleading as well. You can see even from our conversation here today, some points that I'm trying to make, Mark or Annie, comes in and, maybe they have an updated version or updated information, and they chime in to, correct it. So it is very, very important, that, you be very wary of who you're getting your immigration advice from. The myth about 10-year bar, like that applies after 180 days, it's what it is, a myth. People say, oh, as far as you're married to a U.S. citizen, don't worry, you get a green card. It is a myth, because it is not a guarantee. You can be married to a U.S. citizen and still not get a green card for whatever reason. Like we've pointed and said several times today, a lot of times these things are at the discretion of the immigration officers. You can have everything correct, you can have every document and everything that you think they requested for, but for some reason the immigration officer can just say no. And sorry, there's nothing you're going to do. It's just like you go for a visa interview, you feel like you have all the documents, and they still say no. It's at their discretion to issue the visas or approval for any status you're applying to, or thinking that, once you leave the country and then you try to come back, maybe you've overstayed your visa. Maybe, yes, for example, you're on a B1, B2 visa, and then you overstayed, and then you travel like, oh, don't worry, once you travel out, and then, you can always come back again, get another visa again. It is not always so. It is not always so. They are just myths. And that's all the points I have to share today. I hope they've been very useful, and sharing the common mistakes to avoid, in your immigration journey, whether you're planning to come to the U.S. or you're already in the U.S. on different visa status. Thank you again, and I'll pass it over to Annie.
He still gets to work out, and I was lucky. My employer at the time waited. I think they waited 3 months. The anxiety of saying, I have to go and tell these people that the thing is not ready yet. I have to go, next month. They're like, okay, yeah. Then you go again next month. Sorry, this thing is still not ready yet.
For
That's
3
in the
minutes.
air.
Yeah, pushing. They were really pushing with you.
No, they really were. They really were. Those are some of the things that you have to hope you have those kind of people that are willing to wait for you, and of course, you do what you need to do on your path, and that's very, very important. Blessing also talked about not the implication of working without permits, right? That can be a problem when you work without proper authorization, either within or outside of the campus. That can be a serious problem. I think it's one of the major cardinal points that they look out for once an F1 person wants to submit your package. The first thing they are scanning is did this person work outside without authorization? That's the first thing they go to. And I've actually seen cases where lawyers said, I'm not taking this case because this person worked outside. The person wanted to adjust their status, and they said no. The lawyer said they're just not taking the case. And there was another lawyer that took that case. So sometimes I think this one of the key takeaways is also these lawyers are not created equal. So that's something that someone needs to watch out for. I think there are cases of, you could have a case of, you have a case, but they feel like you talk to a lawyer, they just feel like it's not, some of them, they want it to be like 99%, they want to keep that 100% record. So maybe they're like, you have a case, come back next year and we can put things together. Meanwhile, another lawyer, you talk to another lawyer, oh, okay, fine, let's start. When do you have your things ready? I'm going to send you a package, So that could be the case. And another thing also is some lawyers, maybe they have experience in immigration, but not maybe doing things like NIW, for instance. So they may be using your case to learn how to do it. I've seen that situation where the questions the lawyer was asking, like, why is the lawyer asking this question? Like, we already even know also what these things are about. So I think that is very, very important. And of course, file your OPT H1B, file them on time. On time is subjective to your particular situation. When are you graduating? There's the official window, 60 days before and 60 days after, if it's graduation. But of course, in your case, you have to figure out what works for you in terms of when you want to apply, and also be careful of the information that you trust. Online, verify, like I said, USCIS website, CBP, your DSO as well. These are very, very important, because one thing happened, I think. Things like address that you would send your form to, you would be surprised that can also change. So the fact that someone that you knew did it a couple of months ago, then they sent it to this address, go on their website, see that address that you need to send it to. I've seen that, like it was even within 2 months or so. So that's very important. So also the issue with overstaying a visa can have long-term implications, right? When plan yourself properly, if you need to go and renew your visa so that you can continue to stay lawfully. Sometimes some people don't, you just wait till they change their status and just, forget the entire trying to renew visa in Mexico, in Canada, in Nigeria. Of course, sometimes people need to travel, and you do what you have to do in that case. And if an advanced parole applies to your situation, maybe you already start to adjust status, make sure you also get that as well. And with processing times and policies, we've talked about policies in multiple ways. And sometimes these policies, I will talk about one that, help a little bit. During the pandemic, there was a lot of backlog. So the work authorization itself was delaying. So you have a situation where you have a passport delaying, work authorization is also getting delayed. So if you, depending on your employer now, the employment that you get, you could call them to let them know you have an employment, say for a non-profit, for an hospital. They have this criteria where they can then look at your situation and just expedite it, or they request you from you to, get a letter maybe from the employer, but you would write it. They say, okay, this person really wants you. They can get it to you in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, as the case may be. That way it doesn't delay any further. But the pandemic was that period, things were happening. People 5 months, 6 months, all of that kind of complication. I think that added to what was happening to me at the time as well. So someone needs to be able to manage all that timeline, and sometimes the policies as well. So I think after that, people that started applying, you have a case where I think it was the administration now said, okay, just renew, automatic renewal at some point. They had the almost when it expires, just this person must file, but then just automatically renew. So they started doing things to help reduce the backlog. They increased it from 1 year to 2 years. I think later to 5 years. If I heard that, I don't know, but I know the one of 2 years work authorization. Work authorization was always 1 year, for that category, and they just what, just make it 2 years. So whenever people applied, it was 2 years. I think they moved it to 5. I don't know what is happening now. So it's important that to pray for favorable administrative regulations and legislation as well. So I think, of course, the emotional and mental component is always there. Make sure to try and manage yourself. Talk to people, talk to the right people, but always verify. Trust but verify. Maybe you have someone that you can share just what the ups and downs of this, the process can be like, when you're getting stressed. I think that's very, very, always very important as well. If you are still able to access your school counseling, maybe you can also go if you're not already graduated and your insurance also expires. We didn't even talk about insurance. That's another thing that could just like the driver's license. All of these things are related, right? Once you graduate, then you cease to be a student. You're on your own. You don't have health insurance, but they typically sometimes there are free services, maybe online or around your vicinity that you can still explore. I imagine maybe even the university, if you speak to someone, they may be able to do something when it comes to just the mental health component. You might be able to speak to someone as a former student. They try to take care of people in that way. So I think this has been an interesting episode, and really, really crucial points were made both in the first, the part 1 and this part 2 as well. We would still explore some more immigration related and topics, in terms of adjusting your status. We want to make sure we fully round out this series of immigration and adjusting status within the US, because it's very, very important. There are many, many topics on it, even subtopics, stories, many challenges, many interesting, triumphs as well, and successes as well. So we will try to still round this out with another episode as well. So it's been a great time. I hope you guys enjoy this episode and our upcoming episode as well. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for more episodes.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and we appreciate it. And for me, it's a good night.
Yeah. So I know before we go, just to clarify, for the EAD is still 1 year for F1 route for OPT recently. Then for the green card through marriage, the EAD used to be 2, but it's now under Biden administration, it was extended to 5. But I don't know what's the current status now that there's a change in administration. I just wanted to clarify that point.
Thank you. That's very, very important. These things change, and your situation, always know for your case.
Yes.
Yes. It's very, very important.
All right, guys. This was nice.
Everyone. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.